In this job, I don't think there's a more satisfying thing than when you get to review a car that really properly nails its design brief. Take big off-roaders. Now I'm talking about proper mud pluggers here, not these 4x4s that would have trouble mounting the curb outside the school gates. You know, things like the Land Rover Defender, the Toyota Land Cruiser, the Jeep Wrangler. You're never going to get stuck in one of those, well, unless you're doing something really stupid. You know, a lovely winding country back road, you know, a Caterham 7 on that, absolutely just gets it, doesn't it? You know, it's the best at that. It's little city cars, the Fiat 500, you know, easy to manoeuvre, easy to see out of, easy to park, you know, and nippy for getting in and out those tight little gaps. And then of course, you know, track day cars such as the Porsche 911 GT3 RS or a Ferrari Scuderia, you know, they are absolutely excelling at what they have been set out to do. And when it comes to Grand Tourers, then for me, there's one that stands head and shoulders above all the rest, which is this, the Audi e-tron GT. Now I've spent a lot of time with the Audi e-tron GT, including a very fast and very comfortable trip to Scotland and back from the south of England over a weekend. And Audi tell me that they've made it even better. The thing is, they've also made it a little bit more expensive. So is it still worthy of the best GT title, in my opinion? Welcome to this week's road test review. Welcome to the newly revised Audi e-tron GT S. And as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now before I get started on this week's review of Audi's newly revised e-tron GT, it is of course the time where I would ask you to make sure that you're subscribed to the AutoEV channel. Then once you've done that, make sure you then press the little bell button that's down below, because that's the way you'll be notified when our next video is uploaded and it's gone live. Once you've watched the review, if you enjoy it, and I sincerely hope that you do, then obviously make sure you give it a little thumbs up, and don't forget, leave us your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars that we review on the channel, such as Audi's e-tron GT, and of course on the AutoEV channel as a whole. Now obviously the e-tron GT shares an awful lot with its cousin from over in Stuttgart, the Porsche Taycan, but I do believe that they fulfill different briefs in some respects. But this is the odd thing, the e-tron I think has always lived in the Taycan shadow a little bit. And whilst you can get an awful lot more derivatives of the Taycan, you can actually get 7 different versions of the Taycan and a further 9 if you include the Sport Turismo and Cross Turismo. There's only 3 models of the e-tron GT available. And I'm always been a bit surprised that they've never done an Avant version of this car, given Audi's sort of like history with big fast estate cars. But they haven't. But that doesn't stop it being, I think, a real winner in my book. But as I say, Audi say that they've improved this car quite a lot. Now obviously we've driven the revised Taycan back in 2024. So it's time to put the revised e-tron GT through its paces and find out whether or not those upgrades really are worth the extra money, and it is quite a bit extra, that Audi are asking for it. However, as always, before we start, let's remind ourselves about the Audi e-tron GT. Well, the car sits on the J1 platform, shared as we said with the Porsche Taycan. There are now 3 models available, with the standard car now wearing the S nomenclature, while the flagship is the RS, still Audi's only fully electric RS model, and now with the addition of the new RS GT Performance model. The S, the car we have here, has up to 680 PS available, giving it a 0 to 60 time of just 3.4 seconds. It now has a usable battery capacity of 97 kilowatt hours, allowing for a WLTP range of up to 375 miles. And it's priced from just under £108,000 for this S model, but it can go up to £166,000 for the RS GT Performance Carbon Vorsprung Edition. So a bigger battery, meaning more range, but higher performance and a higher price tag. Now, does that mean that Audi are pushing it more towards the sports car side of things? In other words, they're trying to take on the Porsche. And if that is the case, are you better off with the Taycan, which is, believe it or not, a little bit cheaper on comparable models? Well, the only way we're going to find out is by putting it through the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. you know what, in 2025, it is still the AutoEV one. Now, as always, we kick off with styling, and I'm glad to say that Audi have followed Porsche's lead with the Taycan. They've really left well alone. I don't think they really needed much to do with the e-tron GT, because it is a fabulous looking car. I think it's Audi's best looking car since the original TT, and I do think Audi design good cars. The only problem with Audi's design, I always feel, is they are a little bit samey. Do you know what I mean? I always thought it's that Russian doll thing. You know, they all look just like smaller or larger derivatives of each other. But this doesn't look like any other Audi, and I think that's a good thing. And it doesn't look like a Taycan just wearing an Audi badge on it. Yes, obviously they're similar in their sort of stance and their actual style, being sort of like four-door GT style of cars. But I think the Audi's got the styling licked, and I do think the Audi is the better looking between this and the Porsche. Controversial maybe? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Right, what have they actually changed? Well, as I say, not an awful lot. The main focus of change is down here, okay? So you've now got these different air curtains down here. So the airflow, again, is taken around this side of the car, and there's a slightly different shape to this frontal area here. Now, I'm calling this, the name of this car, very, very wrong. It's actually called the S e-tron GT, and then there's an RS e-tron GT, but I always get mixed up, so apologies for me getting that wrong, but you'll probably hear me get it wrong later on in the review as well. But this is the S model, so this is the sort of like lead-in car. If you go for the RS, it's different here, the sort of L-shaped winglets, if you like, down here, which can be done in a carbon, a sort of camouflage carbon finish as well. I like this one, and as we'll find out in the performance and handling section, it's not a slow car. So I think this is the one, possibly for me, because I do like the look of it, and I love this colour. I will find out the name of it later. It's a new grey colour, and it's stunning, it really is, and wait to see the inside of it. Anyway, that's what's sort of changed around the front. You still get these lovely sort of like slim swept back headlights there with their fancy LED matrix sort of like design pattern, and again, brilliant headlights at night. They really work well. You've still got sort of like sensors down at the bottom there, you know, for the radar guided cruise control. All the air intake is down at the bottom, but as I say, that revised section is just round at the side here to help with airflow. You still get this lovely low bonnet line. Again, this nice sort of like scooped out sort of like section of the bonnet as well, where it just gives it a little bit more depth. But I really think this is a handsome looking car. I love this car, and it really, really turns an awful lot of heads. And as I say, I actually prefer it to the Taycan. Inside profile, not a lot has changed. In fact, I think you'd be really hard pushed to tell the differences. There's some new alloy wheel designs. 20 inches are standard, and these are the standard wheels that are fitted to this car. Again, I like these wheels. You can move up to 21s if you go for, I think it's the Vorsprung edition, and then you move into the RS models. They've got quite nice open sort of like spoke design on the RS models, I have to say that. But, you know, I really like these cars. And again, they just sort of tread that line between sports and luxury that I think that the e-tron GT does really, really well. But it's still pretty much as we've seen before, you know, that rakish four-door sort of like GT style of car, fastback style of car. Kimura Grey is what this one is. I've just looked it up, which is it looks like a flat sort of primer grey until the sun hits it and you get this lovely sparkle, this metallic sparkle through it. I love it, I really, really do. Frameless doors, as we've had before, nice sort of like standout door mirrors. Again, little vent at the back is sort of like this wing here that takes the airflow, the pressure that's built up in the wheel arch, vents out there and then down the side of the car. And also you get the contrasting sort of like black sill section there. Now, as I say, if you go for the RS model, it looks a little bit beefier, it looks a bit sort of, you know, on its bigger wheels and things like that. But generally, I think it's a handsome car, this, I really do. And at the rear, again, nothing's really changed. There's some small changes, obviously, which you'll see. You now get this S badge here, this nomenclature of the S badge here, and obviously it's an RS, that changes to RS obviously, and the diffuser's slightly different at the bottom there, and if you go for an RS that changes again. It's a bit more aggressive looking to match the more aggressive front to the car with a sort of like a central vertical reflector strip on the RS model. It's a saloon obviously with a boot rather than a hatchback like it was before, and of course you get this integrated little spoiler that just moves up slightly at speed just to help with airflow and keep obviously the car down on the ground, and you still get the lovely Audi light bar across the back. So no point really going on much more about the styling because, as I say, they haven't really changed much, but nor did they need to in my opinion. And as I say, I prefer it to the Taycan when it comes to the styling. And I think it's Audi's best looking model, I really do. As I said, I think it's the best looking car since the original TT, and I think it's one of the best looking cars that they've ever done. There's a purposefulness to it, there's a stance to the car that just really I don't know, they got the proportions just right on it. But as I say, you know, it doesn't really matter what I think, does it? Because at the end of the day, it's you guys that are out there buying these cars. Does it tickle your pickle still? Would you prefer this over a Taycan? Would you know, just purely on design alone? Do you prefer it over cars such as even Aston Martins or Bentleys or say a BMW 8 Series? Controversial to ask, but you know, let me know your thoughts as always in the comment section down below. And apologies, by the way, before we go on, it's a biblically bright day. It's very cold, filming this in January, and it's got a very low sun, so you will see shadows of the camera equipment in the car, so I do apologise for that, but you know, needs must. Practicality. Look, as I say, I'm surprised Audi haven't done an Avant version of this car, given their history with big fast estate cars. I mean, they are the kings of it almost, you know, apart from Volvo. So I am shocked that they haven't done an Avant version of the car. However, it's not what I'd call an impractical car for the type of car that it is. The boot space is 350 litres, which is a little bit down on before, believe it or not. I think it's to do with the rear motor and obviously the bigger battery, which also we'll talk about a wee bit later on. But look, as you can see, I think it's good for, you know, 4 people with luggage. You could get, and now my wife's away in business at the moment, so she's got one of the carry-ons. Somebody else is taking the other one, so I've only got 2 suitcases left in my camera bags, but I know in the old car, I did get the carry-ons sitting above that. But even if you've got, say look, you've got this sort of like the large and the medium suitcase in there, which fit in really nicely, you'll still get soft bags in there, or, you know, another carry-on. So I think it's a really good size of boot that you get with the car. There is also some underfloor storage as well, so there's a tiny bit of underfloor storage in there too. But look, 2 suitcases, 2 big suitcases, my camera bag, the tripod bag, the drone kit, and there's loads of space left. It's not an impractical car, you know, as I say, if there's 4 of you going away, you know, sort of like a family of 4 going down to the south of France for a, you know, a long weekend or a week's holiday, you can pack it all you got in that. Plus, there's more room up at the front. And if you're looking for the release for the front, well, Audi have ingeniously put it in the door. Why they've done that, but anyway, that's what it is in the door shut of the car. But yeah, you've still got extra room up at the front here. He says, not been able to find the bonnet catch, there we go. There's cable storage in there, but you can take the cables out if you're not using them, and you'll get a carry-on in there, and I've just got my camera bag in there. So in fairness, as I say, it's still a really practical car. Right, rear seat space. Well, if you're shorty like me, it's absolutely fine. In fact, it's quite commodious in some respects. Now, the other night, my parents-in-law had their wedding anniversary, and there was 4, I took, you know, sort of like, there was myself, my wife, my daughter Katie, the dog Finley, and my brother-in-law, who's 6'4", and he was sat behind me. I gave him a lift home, and he was sat behind me, and I'm 5'8", and he said he had actually got quite a lot of room. The only downside was headroom, you know, so if you're 6 foot, you're starting to encroach, you know, where this rear roofline slopes back. But again, what do you expect? GT car. But sitting behind myself, if you were my height, if you're a teenager, say my height, and you say you're off for a long drive, this is blissfully comfortable. The seats themselves are very nice as well. They're sculpted. I'd say 3 across is pushing it. You know, it's a 2-seater car really in the back. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention is you can fold the back seats down as well to give you extra boot space. There's also this fold down armrest, which doubles as a load through facility, and obviously you've got cup holders there. This particular one's got heated rear seats, climate control, and there's USB connectivity at the leading edge of the seat squabs. But the way the seats are sculpted, you know, you get nice backrest, you get a good bit of support under your thigh. There's oddly a transmission tunnel, but there you go. There's plenty of knee room because the backs of the front seats are sculpted out, and I can get my feet underneath the driving seat and I'll have that in its lowest position. So as long as you're not too tall in terms of headroom, then you're absolutely fine. Now, I want to talk about this glass roof because you now get the option of this panoramic glass roof, which is a bit like the Porsche system and also very similar to Renault's Solar Bay, where it can go clear to opaque, or you can have it done in different sections. I love this. This is brilliant because I quite like a big open glass panoramic roof. It lets a lot of light inside the car. Whereas my wife and Katie, my daughter, they prefer a car to feel a bit cozier inside. So you can sort of like, you know, make it opaque to make the car feel a bit more enclosed and a little bit warmer, especially at night. And it's this leather, gorgeous, this cognac leather, which is stunning. It's an Audi exclusive colour, and it's not cheap, but we'll talk about that in the pricing section. But anyway, as far as rear accommodation is concerned, it's still exactly what we've expected from the e-tron GT, and it's still brilliant, and it's still, I think, but what makes it one of the best GT cars you can buy. Right, I'll take my jacket off, because otherwise all you hear is the rustling of the microphone against my jacket, but it is biblically cold today. Still, no snow around by me, which wouldn't matter, because obviously I've got a Quattro. Right. This is an area. Sorry, I've switched the car on. Let me just exit all this and do all this stuff. Okay, yeah. Right, this is an area that I feel I am going to criticise in some respects. It's my biggest problem with the e-tron. It's the interior of, or the e-tron GT. It's the interior of it. Now, let me quantify what I'm going to see here. There's been a little redesign in here, not much. A bit like the outside, a little bit like obviously Porsche I've done with the Taycan. There's just some sort of like small alterations in here. However, I don't think it's good enough for this style of car. I don't think this is the interior from a six-figure car. And I never did before. I like the interior in the sense it's an Audi interior, so everything works. And there's a lot to like about it, like physical buttons, which I'll talk about in a minute. But it just doesn't feel special enough. Again, it feels like, you know, if somebody were to put in this car blindfold and someone said this is an A6, you'd go, oh, all right. You know, it's not what I would think should be the interior of this car. And I think they should have done a little bit more. Now, one thing I will say is Audis have always been impressed with build quality, but there's a really annoying rattle from this dashboard over on the right hand side. That's really annoying, so I don't know why that's there. But anyway, that's by the by. Let's put it down to this car. But yeah, I think the interior needs to be, they should have done a bit more with this, because I just don't think it feels special enough. And when it does feel special, when you put something like, you know, this sort of like really expensive leather in it, it's really expensive, you know? So there we go. That's my gripe out of the way. I still do have one more gripe, and that is the steering wheel, which I'll go on to in a second. But you've got the familiar Audi MMI interface, as they call it here, which is wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And again, it's fine. You know, it works. And I like the fact, and as I say, I've always said, you know, when you press everything, it clicks, so you know you've actually pushed something, you've actually sort of like activated something. But it feels like it's from an Audi 10 years ago. You know what I mean? It feels like Audi have been doing this forever. Come on, Audi, let's push some boundaries. Let's just, you know, get something better going on here. That's my issue with it. It should be better for this price of car. But, as I say, the flip side of that is it works really well. And I do, you know, so it's all right. What I do like about it is, as I say, you've got physical buttons down here for the climate control system. So it's a nice thin strip, as you can see here. So for your heated and ventilated seats, options, I will say, certainly heated ventilated seat are option, and you know, your automatic climate, and then for adjusting temperature and for adjusting fan speed and things like that, it's just a click of a wheel. So you know your muscle memory immediately defaults to the right switch for you to adjust the temperature or the fan speed as you see fit. So I can't really complain about that. That's good. And then down here you've got a row of physical switches as well. So for your drive modes, your stability control, your parking, for switching the screen on and off, they're still there as well. So that's good. However, Audi, you've done the unthinkable. You've fitted touch sensitive buttons to the steering wheel. Why have you done that? Why have you gone to touch sensitive buttons? I don't like them. They don't work particularly well because, you know, you've got to, you know, just sweep your hand against it to make it work. And that's all too easy just to brush the heel of your hand as you're turning the wheel and to turn the volume up or to turn your heated steering wheel on or something. Why have you not kept your physical controls there? Seems odd. But there's a new wheel itself, so that's maybe why they've done it, because it's now not just flat at the bottom, it's flat at the top as well. And it's quite a nice wheel to hold. It feels modern, it feels nice in the hand. It's about the right girth, it's the right diameter, and it gives you a nice view of the dashboard in front of you, which again is a typical Audi. You've got, you know, the proper white on black sort of dashboard, which obviously you can you can change. You know, you can change it. So you've got onboard computer, you've got trip computer. What else can you do it as? You can have the map in there, so you can have the map in a small way, or you can do it so the map is right in front of you with small dials. So there's a huge amount to configure that you can do. So I do like that, and as I say, and that works well. It just feels a bit samey, you know, that we've had from Audi before. Doesn't detract from the car, but I just like it to be a bit better. Anyway, I'm not going to go on too much about it. Oh, there's one new thing in here as well. So if I can get it back, where was it? Where did I see it? Hang on. View, it's not there. Battery and charging. Okay, so I'll talk about this in the usability section. But what you can see here now is the actual rate of charge you're getting in the car as well. And we'll talk about that in the usability section, because there's a big change with the battery and the charging curve with the car, which is really good. But you can see in there, and you've got a little trip computer there that tells you how many miles per kilowatt hour you're getting on average. So that's good. Right, away from that. Right. You've also got these brake regen paddles behind you, behind the steering wheel here. So you can go through different levels of brake regen. But when you accelerate, it comes off. Why does it do that? If you've set it how you want it, why does it then come off when you accelerate again? I don't know. But I prefer to do the braking myself, as you probably know if you've watched AutoEV a lot. I much prefer it, you know, as I say, it's like Porsche's way of, you know, you're the driver, so you're making it accelerate, you're making it stop, not the car. So they've gone down that route, and I do like that, but it just seems odd that you can't leave it set in a particular setting and left it there. But there you go. This is this anthracite birch inlay, which is beautiful, but it's expensively optioned. And again, there's a huge amount of options on this car, in this particular one, but it does look nice and I do like it. And it's also got a wee bit of Alcantara in the doors as well. Still too much glossy black plastic Audi. I don't like that. That needed to maybe change. Why could you not have done that? Maybe the same wood finish is there. But I can get my big Yeti coffee flask in the cup holder, he says, which seems to be stuck, but that's there and it's gripped. And this car, believe it or not, has the optional smoker's pack fitted. When was the last time you saw an ashtray in a car? You've got the little lozenge gear selector there, a little storage tray in there for my parking tickets for the airport the other night, face vents down there, you know, reasonable sized door bins that are rubber lined on the bottom, which is good. You can drop your mobile in, which is a problem we're going to talk about in a second. So you can drop your mobile in down there. And then usual physical controls on the door panel for your mirrors and windows, and then light switches down here. Cruise control and speed limiter set down there, and then 2 column stocks as you'd see fit. Now, speed limit warning and the ADAS systems, you've got to go into the screen to turn them off. And again, it's a little bit laborious. So you've got to go in, where is it? You've got to go in your car setting, then wait till it comes up. Where is it? You scroll across to another screen, go to drive assist, driver assist, press it there, and then you've got to scroll up and down this turning on, and then ask you to confirm it. It's too much. It's too much. It's not huge, you know, but the problem is, when you've got the car, especially as you're driving it, if you're on a really nice twisty road, and you are sort of like, you know, just cutting into the sort of like the centre of the road a bit more as you've got a nice line through a corner, the car will pull you back. So you do want to turn it off, and of course it defaults on all the time. So it's a real pain that you've got to go such a faff to find it. That could be better, and that's what I mean. This needs to be upgraded and better, Audi. Anyway, there we go. Right, my other beef is this. The wireless charging pad is in here. I've got an iPhone 15 Pro Max, the big one, yeah? It won't fit in there. It just won't fit. So if you've got one of these new bigger smartphones, you know, not just talking about iPhones, but you know, like a big Samsung Galaxy or a Google Pixel, they don't fit in there. Why is that? It's so small. The charging pad, you know, for charging the phone, it just doesn't fit in there. And of course, it doesn't fit in this little slot here. You've got to use, you put a cup holder, as I've been doing, throwing it in the door bin, which of course you're in danger then if you open the door, it falls out. But there you go. So the interior's not perfect, that's what I'm trying to say. I think it feels a bit dated in here for what is now a car costing over £100,000. The materials used are, you know, a typical Audi. I can't fault that, as I say, other than a wee rattle that's on this particular car up there. You know, and this one's got the Bang & Olufsen sound system as well, which is great. Obviously, your wireless Apple CarPlay now, Android Auto. And as I say, I can't really knock it from the point of view. It's got the physical switches, which I do like. But the stuff then you've got to interact with, whilst it is good in some respects because it's slick and it's, you know, as I say, it's typical Audi, you know, everything just feels very professional and very clear and very concise. There's too much of it to interact with, to turn stuff off. It needed a big rethink, I think, the interior. And this is where I think that it's the one part of the car I feel let down by, is the interior of it. However, on saying that, it's a beautiful place to sit and it's a lovely, comfortable place to spend time in. These new seats, stunning, absolutely stunning. They've got the little S logo on the top of these ones, which are illuminated at night as well. And these particular ones, because this is the expensive seat option, these are ventilated and heated. But you can pay extra, believe it or not, to have them not leather. So Audi are now charging you not to have leather. So if you want to go, and I wouldn't, because I had that on that RS model I had last time, I had that wool blend material, which I felt looked like a base model A4. And the last thing this interior needs is to feel less special. So it needs to feel more special. So, you know, stick with the leather, I would, unless you're obviously against leather interiors. But yeah, so as I say, it works in its functionality, but I just feel it now feels dated and it should be better. Does that make sense? Right, one of the big changes to the new e-tron GT is the battery. So big increase in battery size. It now jumps up to a rather whopping 97 kilowatt hours of usable capacity, which Audi say should give, well, according to WLTP figures, a range of up to 375 miles on the S model. I think it's 364 or something like that on the RS. Now that's a significant increase over the old car, meaning you should get a usable 300, an easily achievable 300 miles out of the car if you're being relatively sensible with it in mild weather. I charged the car to full last night and it's showing just, I think it's 298 miles, but bearing in mind at the moment it's hovering around about 0 degrees when I'm filming this. So, you know, in warmer months I'd expect to see a lot more than that. And as I say, having driven the car over a distance, the old car, I can see that that's a very achievable figure for the car. Now that should translate, as I say, to a real world range around about 300 miles if you're being sensible, but your charging speeds are also increased as well. They've jumped up quite a bit, 320 kilowatts. Now this is what I was talking about on that little battery meter thing in the dashboard as well, so you can see how it's charging, the speed that the charge that it's getting delivered to the car now. And Audi say they've changed the charging curve of it as well, so you should get peak power a lot more of the time. And they say that you can go from a 10 to 80% charge in just 18 minutes from one of those 350 kilowatt chargers, you know, like the Onity ones or the Porsche chargers that you can get out there. But even so, they also quote if you're using, say, 150 kilowatt rapid chargers, you know, you get the petrol stations, and that is 33 minutes to go from 10 to 80%, which is what you get on pretty much every other car anyway. So that's really good. The fact that you can dump a pile of miles into the car in a short space of time if you get to one of those ultra rapid chargers, I think's brilliant. You know, and as I say, if you're thinking about driving long distances, you're not stopping for very long, so you're going further and you're stopping less, and that's what we want. Onboard 11 kilowatt charger is standard. That comes as standard, but if you're using, say, a 7 kilowatt wall box like my Anderson one, that means you'll go from flat to full in around about 17 hours, because it is a big battery, remember. The old car was hardly a slouch, okay? But this new S e-tron GT is actually more powerful than the old e-tron GT RS, if that makes sense. This puts out, as standard, 592 PS, but in launch control it goes up to 680 PS. This thing will launch to 60 from a standstill in 3.4 seconds. This is not by any means a slow car. And as I say, I genuinely wonder why you would spend extra going for the RS. I really do. I think this ticks every box for me. I can't see needing any more power than what this car offers. It's a phenomenally fast car. But it's not the speed that impresses me with the big Audi. It's not. It's the way in which it goes about you know, sort of like being a grand tourer. And this is the type of car I really, really like. Now, don't get me wrong, it's quite firm, but you know, it's not hard-edged. You know, there's air suspension as standard on the car. You can have a new active ride system. I think it's on one of the RS models. It's an option on the others. And what it will do is it uses a hydraulic damper on each wheel, and as it's sort of like scanning the road, it knows what's coming up. So in other words, if it needs to prop up this side, you know, if you're going into a right hand bend and you need to prop up the left hand side of the car to keep it flat through the bend, that's what that damper will do, and vice versa. It also eliminates dive under braking and pitch under acceleration, so it's quite clever. But as I say, it's quite an impressive car as standard, in fairness. Now, one thing I will say about the car is, apart from this really annoying rattle that's in this door here, Audi press, you need to sort that out. I went to pick my brother-in-law up the other day at the airport. He was coming back from being in Poland over Christmas, and there's a section from me in Surrey round to Gatwick. There's a section of the M25 which is horribly surfaced. It's kind of concrete, and it you know, if you get it at 70 miles an hour, it's just this horrible pitch in the car. Whilst you could hear it in the Audi a little bit, you couldn't feel it. And that's what really impresses me with the e-tron GT. That's what I mean. It's just such a great grand tourer. You know, it's comfortable, but it's fast, but it handles well. It ticks all the GT boxes that I think that a car like this needs to do. Yes, the Taycan is a little bit of a sharper drive, but it's much more of a sports car oriented car, I think. This is more the grand tourer, and this defines its role much, much better. I think the Taycan, and I love the Taycan, don't get me wrong, I think it tries to be too many different things. The Audi doesn't. The Audi sticks to being what it is, a GT, and it does it really, really well. The driving position is, well, exemplary. It's beautiful. You know, these seats hold you really well. You can extend the squab out. They've got just the right amount of head restraint support down the side of my thighs, lateral support down here, perfect. The new steering wheel, I do like it. I'd hate the touch sensitive controls, but actually I like the wheel to hold, and I like the fact it's, you know, flat at the top now, so you just get this nice view of the driver cockpit, you know, the virtual cockpit. Visibility around the car is actually pretty decent as well, you know, so, you know, even without the mirrors, your over the shoulder visibility is not bad, you know, considering that sort of like that rakish rear end that the car has. So, you know, good visibility from it, and the mirrors are big enough where you get a good view down the flanks of the cars. But it's the interaction with all the controls, you know, the weighting of them is all beautiful. You know, the throttle pedal, you know, it's got a nice firm push that's needed to make you accelerate. Again, it's that, I'm going back to that. You know, they're making EVs with these sort of like accelerated pedals that feel almost mechanical, that feel like a combustion engine car. So there's just not this explosion under your foot. It's just a nice linear gathering of speed. And boy, is there enough speed in this car. There is a huge amount of power that gets put to all four wheels. Whoa. You slow down a bit. Now there's different modes that you can go into, as you'd expect. There's the drive select down here. So we have efficiency, comfort, dynamic and individual. In comfort, you've got that blend of, you know, sort of like suppleness in the air suspension, where it just soaks up all the bumps. If I go into the dynamic mode, yes, it's firmer. There's no getting away from that. You start to feel more of the imperfections on the surface. Cat's eyes that you roll over on the sort of the central reservation, drain hole covers, that type of thing. But you pitch it into a bend like this roundabout here, and the car just stays resolutely flat as you go round it through any kind of corner. The car just stays beautifully solid and beautifully flat, and allows you to sort of like, you know, really lean on the chassis and get the car around. And that's great on a sort of like a tight road, but it's more those open fast roads that I'm talking about, you know, the big open A roads that you would find yourself in a GT car on, you know, sort of like going across France or down, you know, across through the Alps and that type of thing. Sorry, it's the width restriction. If I don't concentrate, I'll curb a wheel. So those type of roads are the type that, you know, where I think the car really does excel at, and this dynamic driving mode, if you like, really helps out. It's a heavy car, you know, it's over 2 tons, but it doesn't feel it. That's the thing with it, you know, it really, if you get it on a really nice flowing road, the car just glides along, and it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful to take this thing down a lovely sort of fast A road. And as I say, it's not uncomfortable. You've got something that's a very, very, you know, easy car to live with. And, dare I say, you can just do the everyday with it because, well, it's an Audi, you know, it just works like an Audi works. So, you know, you pop it back into the comfort mode, you know, it's quiet, as I say, it's comfortable, the suspension's good, good visibility, nice steering. What more could you want? Now the brakes are worthy of a mention. This car's got the optional steel carbide brakes, and they've got a hell of a bite to them. They really have. Don't get me wrong, you've got to pay for the privilege, but there's a real sort of like bite to them. You know, so like if I come up, let's get past this truck that's coming in here, and then hank on the brakes, jeepers. Feel my face peel off when you do that. That's incredible. So good brakes on the car. And again, because of the weight of it, you're going to want that. But I am a little bit, I don't quite get this thing, as I was saying earlier. If you ramp up the regen, if I get it up to there, yeah, it slows it down, but then as I stamp on the accelerator pedal and accelerate again, it goes back, it resets itself. That's a bit odd. But otherwise, I can't really complain about the way the car drives. I think now this could be the e-tron GT of choice. I cannot see you ever needing more performance than this car has. Why would you go for that RS model? Why would you spend over another £30,000 to get the RS GT performance when this thing is as fast as it is as good to drive as it is as comfortable as it is, and still not a cheap car? It might not be cheap, but I tell you what, it's still absolutely brilliant. I love this car, I really do. I just get on with this car so well. As I say, and it makes it even more disappointing with Audi's e-tron SUV, the big Q8 e-tron, that is just such a disappointing car in some respects. Whereas this one, and now it goes even further, I just want to go and pack a bag and just disappear off across France with it. That's what this car makes me do. If somebody said to me tonight I had to drive to my mother's house tonight, this is the car I'd choose. Nothing else. I love it. And Audi, you've made it even better than it was before. Right, there has to be a downside with all this, and there is, and it's the price, okay? It is now a very expensive car. It wasn't exactly a cheap car before, let's be honest, but it has got very expensive now. There is less options in terms of the sort of like the e-tron GT range, if you like, than you get with Taycan. As I say, remember there's about 7 different cars within the Taycan range that you go from the base rear wheel drive right up to the Turbo GT with YSAC package. You don't get that sort of spread of cars within the e-tron GT. So there isn't a car that's under 6 figures with the Audi, okay? This is the S model, the S e-tron GT, which is the base car effectively. And this car starts at £107,730, which is more expensive than the equivalent Taycan, which I think is the 4S if you take the model for model, okay? So it's not a cheap car, all right? But this is not a standard S. This is a launch edition car, and this has quite a well, this comes as standard with all these things, but if you add them as options to a base car, it becomes quite expensive. Let me just talk about some of those options, okay? So the Audi exclusive cognac brown Napa leather styling package, and breathe, is that is £6,985, £7 for that leather, okay? The birchwood inlays are £795, the wood inlays on the dash, so if you add them to a standard base car, 795 quid. The carbide steel brakes, 2,965. The Sport Seats Pro, £2,045. The S Technology Pack Pro, which gives you this panoramic roof, the Bang & Olufsen audio system and a few other bits and pieces, that's £5,500. So there's no getting away from it. This is a ridiculously expensive car. This particular car here lists at £134,261. Dig deep, folks. And remember, this is the S model. You then can have an RS, which goes up from there. The top of the range RS GT Performance, as I said at the beginning, is now £166,000. But like I said, I don't necessarily think you need to spend all that level of money on an e-tron GT to get a good car, in fairness. I like this S model. I mean, I like the old RS, don't get me wrong, but this is a good car. But maybe you're thinking, oh, that is an awful lot of money, Brian. What else could I consider? Well, naturally, of course, there's the Taycan. I mean, that is its natural rival, isn't it? And as I say, you get a little bit more variety within the Taycan range as to maybe what you can choose. You know, turbo, GT, GT with YSAC package, rear-wheel drive models, all-wheel drive, Sport Turismo, Cross Turismo. But naturally, it's a rival for the car. So, of course, that's the first one that you're going to look at. Different cars to drive, remember that though, but certainly, as I say, still worthy of a look. Now from BMW, of course, there's the i5 M60, a car that won our Car of the Year back in 2023. A fabulous car, I love that car. Not everyone does, in fairness, but I think the i5 M60 is a brilliant car. Not as efficient, not as good when it comes to the range as the Audi, and not cheap. But bear in mind, obviously, you can have that as a touring as well. So if you need extra practicality, you can have a fast estate car from BMW. Mercedes, naturally, of course, there's a Mercedes AMG EQE models. So their cars, again, like the BMW, more saloon car bias, but performance not exactly lacking because, of course, tuned by AMG. And then, of course, how can we not mention the Tesla, the Model S, of course, especially in the plaid variety, blisteringly fast. Only left-hand drive and available to order from stock in the UK, but maybe if you're one of our viewers from overseas, maybe say America or Europe, hi there, then of course that's a car to consider as well. And there's a new car that's coming along this year, which obviously we're hoping to get our hands on and test, and it wears a Lotus badge, the new Lotus Emea, which is a bit more like the Taycan and the e-tron GT and that sort of four-door fastback style of car. So it's not exactly lacking in competition, in fairness, but I do like this. So here's what we like, and also what we don't like about Audi's newly revised S e-tron GT. Well, we love its styling, the vastly improved performance, its chassis balance, its refinement, its quality, and the fact that it still defines the GT car exceptionally well. We don't like, well, it is now eye-wateringly expensive. And of course, as this isn't the top of the range, it gets even more expensive. The interior, in our opinion, is now feeling dated. And come on, Audi, give us an Avant model. I've always been a big fan of the Audi e-tron GT, and where the big e-tron SUV, now the Q8 e-tron, continues to disappoint me, the e-tron GT continues to impress me. I think it's a better car than the Porsche Taycan, I really do. And I think now what Audi have now done is they've made it an even better car than before. They've made it slightly better to look at, they've made it go even faster, they've now made it go even further, and they've made sure that you have to charge it even less. All good things. Don't get me wrong, there's a price to pay for that, and no doubt that will come hand in hand with some hefty depreciation. But this S e-tron GT, I think, could be so good that I would question your need to spend much more on the faster RS version. There's no doubt in my mind that this is Audi's best electric car. In fact, I think it could be Audi's best car. And there's no doubt at all that, as far as I'm concerned, it is still the best Grand Tourer that you can buy. Thank you for watching another road test review on AutoEV. As always, please make sure that you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel. Then once you've done that, make sure you press the little bell button that's down below, because that's the way you'll be notified when our next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you have enjoyed this week's video, and I sincerely hope that you have, then make sure you give it a little thumbs up, and don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think about the new Audi S e-tron GT? As daft as that name all sounds, to make sure it's the right way around. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you have the old car? Would you consider upgrading to the new one? Are you now thinking it's just too expensive now? Or are you thinking maybe it's now sort of like a comparable car to the Porsche, and that's worth looking at? Let me know in the comment section down below. Now remember, we're across all social media platforms as well, so Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, TikTok, so please give us a follow there. And maybe if you're in the market for an electric car, it might not be a new Audi e-tron GT, maybe you're thinking about a used one, because let's be honest, they're now starting to look good value for money on the second-hand market, but you need to know a bit more about the older car. How do you find out? Well, let me tell you how. Stay on the AutoEV YouTube channel, and at the top there you'll see a little magnifying glass, and if you just type the name of the car that you're interested in there, if it's been a new electric car that's been brought into the UK over the last 5 years, then of course we'll have subjected it to the road test that car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle, and that, folks, is the AutoEV one. All it remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for continuing to support AutoEV as a channel. I'll see you again soon.